Welcome to Montana State of Mind with Montana. First things first, we got a microphone, and by we, I mean me. And boy, have I been loving it. I have probably said good morning Vietnam, if not 24 times since I've gotten this microphone.
Good morning, Vietnam!
Have I dated myself enough? Great. So I have brought you to here today because something has been consuming women and maybe others since the live action One Piece Netflix series dropped, and that is a hot sexy clown. A hot sexy clown that has consumed our minds and consumed Tumblr fanfiction, AO3 fanfiction. I'm subscribed to a few myself. The future is clown. The future is clown.
Don't be mad.
What I mean, if you live under a rock or you just don't have TikTok or like you're just not super into social media, probably for the best, is in the One Piece live action series, there is a villain called Buggy the Clown. And Buggy the Clown has been deemed probably Clown Daddy, the hottest clown we've ever seen. And so much so that even the official Netflix Twitter account, as well as the One Piece Twitter account, have acknowledged it, have acknowledged the sickness that we are all feeling. So that is why I wanted to do this video today, because as I was being consumed by Buggy the Clown, I kind of just got in a deep dive of clowns in general. The art of clownery, clowning, if you will. And so I wanted to share my knowledge with you because it's actually really fascinating. It is surprisingly, I don't want to say surprisingly, because we've all known like clowning is an art. It is an art, but it has a very rich history, and I wish I could do it justice by going into every little aspect of it. But I don't have the time and the subscribers. So maybe later. Without further ado, let's just do a very brief kind of clown history. Now, clowning itself is derived from jester, and then gesturing is derived from trickster. And one of the first, not the first in history, but one of the most notable first tricksters, if you will, is Loki, the Norse god. Now, Loki was able to go through many genders, and so the term trickster is not necessarily for a man or a woman. It is for just a trickster. That is a more mythological kind of term for what a clown could be. And so Loki is technically kind of a clown god, if you will, a trickster, because he would use his trickery to defend himself. That was his defense mechanism in most of his stories, is using tricks. And he also brought a lot of humor to the stories. He brought a lot of shenanigans, if you will, a lot of shenanigery. In fact, the word jester kind of comes from his lore because he was giving a jest, it was kind of that old term of, I'm just kidding. I'm just joking. I'm just kidding. It's just a jest.
I'm gonna turn you into a frog. It was a wonderful joke.
It was indeed hilarious.
So clowns, jesters, that profession goes back all the way even to ancient Egypt. They had jesters within their courts. The ancient Romans and Greeks also had their own form of jesters. And these jesters held a special place in society as they were able to come and go freely among all the classes. They were not held like everybody else within a strict class system. They were able to move freely in society because their role was to amuse and to distract from the real world. And people really valued that art form. And it took, honestly enough, it takes a lot of skill to be funny.
you guys have ever tried to tell a joke while people cracking crabs?
So, both men and women could be jesters. And the first female jester that was kind of written in history that we know of was about 1096 or 1098. And it was a jestress, if you will, named Adeline. And she owned land, which was a huge deal because this was also a profession where if you were good enough, you could own land in a time when women, you were pretty much property. So that was insanely impressive. In the 12th century, we start to see the term follis or fool. And now a fool is no fool at all, really, because a fool is a jester who can technically own land. Most often than not. I'm sure there are, someone in the comments is going to correct me, but most often than not, research has shown that a fool is a land owning jester. So kind of backwards, if you ask me, because that's very impressive for being a funny person in medieval times. Not only were jesters huge in medieval Europe, they were also huge in India, China, Australia, South America. I mean, it is honestly, in my research, it was so fascinating to see that nearly, if not all, structures of human society and culture have this role. Okay, so kind of the art of gesturing and the precursor to clown. So jesters were neutral observers and they were on the peripherals of history, meaning they didn't necessarily have a side. And that was highly valued in the courts that employed them, or just the people that employed them, because it meant that, when a jester makes a cut at you or a joke at you, it's not coming from like a strictly negative place. It's just a neutral observation. So the jesters had this great ability and privilege, if you will, to be able to make fun of the king or the emperor or whoever was in charge and not be beheaded.
I'm King Stewie. I rule with an iron fist. La 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 la. Look at me. Ooh. In my office now.
And with that, they were able to challenge the rules of society and the principles of a culture. They were able to, again, make fun of it, but in such a way that it was very clever and nuanced and intelligent. Again, to be a fool, you actually had to be very smart. It was able to bring humor, and that was a great aid to tense situations. In fact, that in my research, I saw that there were a lot of tribes in Australia, a lot of Aboriginal tribes who have a role of a person that when two people begin to fight and it gets to a certain level, that person starts to behave so outrageously and just so outlandish that it breaks the tension. Everybody laughs, everybody has a good time, and the fight is diffused. So again, it's just kind of crazy to see that there is technically a clown in every culture. So that's like wild to me. Now, the role of a jester or a clown, or however you want to name this profession, it was not necessarily a cushy job by any means, because in medieval Europe, for example, the jester had to go with the army as they began to prepare for war, for battle, and they would bolster the army up the night before with songs and stories and jokes, and just kind of ease the tension. If you can imagine the night before a battle, the jester would come and kind of ease everybody's mind, and a few drinks, and just make sure everybody got a good night's sleep, And not only did they do the night before, the pregame before the battle, they also had to go in the battle formation, the lines, and either run up and down on foot or on horseback, and again, sing songs, make fun of the other army, almost kind of like a mascot, if you will, before a football game. Okay, so now we're going to kind of get into modern clowns and what we associate with clowns. So, we start to see the circus clown, or what we identify as a clown, you know, the makeup and everything, during the 19th to 20th century. And so with that, we stop seeing necessarily kind of like the village idiot trope and the jester trope. And we do start to see these comedic theater performances by circuses, by theaters, just comedy troupes, you know, traveling around. We start to see, you know, traveling jesters. And with that, they start kind of honing their craft and experimenting with styles. And we start to see a more clown kind of art form, more figure, more a performer, if you will, come to head. One of the first iconic, famous clowns who also brought the clown makeup that we know today was Joseph Grimaldi. And he was famous during the 17 to 1800s. And again, he was the first to notably do the white face. We start to see the white face, the grease paint kind of clown become more popular. And then during the Depression, we see a huge jump in the hobo tramp style of clown. And that was huge. The tramp hobo clown style, that I will describe the clown styles later. It was a huge, huge trend during the Great Depression, that during that time, obviously, because people had to laugh at the circumstances. They had to see a performer who was performing what they were experiencing, but kind of, you know, bring in a sense of humor to it. Again, it disrupted the daily life of the Depression. It made fun of things that people probably couldn't find humor in. And it just really helped probably bring a rainbow of clown paint, honestly, to the gray cloud that was the Depression during that era. Okay, so in the 1980s, we're doing a huge time skip here, so stay with me. But in the 1980s is when we start to see the scary clown trope being used by Hollywood and Stephen King and a lot of authors. We start to see, due to these people who were born in the 60s and grew up with Bozo the Clown and had that fear, they then, when they became writers and producers, they started bringing it to the big screen, and the audience grew up, you know, they're about the same age, and they were probably terrified of clowns too. Why are we scared of clowns? Why are clowns so terrifying to nearly everybody? And that is because researchers have called it de-individuation. And now what that is when we as humans, we read social cues, we read facial expressions. It is our sense of fight or flight when we can't read those. And so when someone has a mask or a ton of makeup, a expression permanently, not permanently, but, you know, painted on their face, a huge wig, big old clothes, like, it makes our inner animal, if you will, unsure of what the intentions are because we can't read the facial expressions. So it does make us nervous. It is very unnerving. And it is kind of sad because the hallmark of the circus clown, or just that type of clown, is to be so far removed from that person's actual identity. So the de-individuation is kind of key to the performance, and a lot of the audience members just can't handle it. Scary clown trope really obviously hurt the clown industry. Of course, Pennywise, John Wayne Gacy, Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Although writers were chiming in on a fear that is very valid and a lot of people have, it did hurt the art form of clowning because it's hard to bring joy to people when they're terrified of you.
No silver lining here. I was a big cheese. A huge cheese. But now look at me.
On theaterlife.com, there is a quote that I really enjoyed, and it said, quote, We laugh with relief and sometimes also unease as the clown reveals what lies beneath for those who want to see. At the same time, the clown shows the audience to laugh in the face of adversity. He shows them that life goes on and that it always will, and that it shouldn't be taken too seriously. We've talked about kind of the history of clowns and where that art form kind of comes from. So now I'm going to really rush into just the main types of clowns. Now, in my research, there are so many clowns. There are so many clowns. I'm sorry if you can hear my chickens in the background. They are right by the window. But there are so many clown forms out there in so many different cultures that, again, I am not making that video. I am, however, going to gloss over clowns that probably an American audience would recognize. First clown is going to be the white-faced clown, and that is going to be your Bozo, your Ronald McDonald, your Pennywise, if you will. That is going to be your completely white face, usually a red wig, painted mouth, painted eyebrows, big clothes, big shoes, rubber nose. That is going to be your stereotypical circus clown, is going to be a white-faced clown. And now they are kind of like a very chaotic character. They are usually so huge and dramatized. And then we have the role of the august clown come in, who sometimes kind of stands in for the straight man. From my understanding, again, I am not a clown expert, so please know that. But from my research, the august clown was supposed to be kind of a straight man to the white-faced clown. And now the august clown is going to be not the white grease paint, but they are going to have the painted mouth, the nose, the eyebrows, similar kind of garb. So they're not going to have the white face, but they are going to have just a little chapstick, a little eyeliner, maybe a lash.
There are 4 types of clowns: a tramp, an auguste, a white face, and a character. I am a classically trained auguste clown named Fizbo. What?
Nothing. Between the clown and the fish, I'm surprised you had time for the schooling. Oh, and there's the 5th type, the sad clown.
Sad clown is a tramp. So there's still only 4 types.
So those 2 main types, it's very interesting because modern comedy today, like sitcoms that we see, it's all from clowns. It is all derived from clown theater. Think about it. Come with me on this journey. So you have clown theater, like clowns performing in theater, and you usually have the straight man and the wacky man. And then they take off the makeup and they just start performing radio shows that way. You know, Laurel and Hardy, if you will. And then they get on TV and start doing it in movies. And we still to this day see the straight man and the wild card. And there are other performances and acts that are derived from clowning, but that is one of the main ones. Of you're watching 2.5 Men or It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, whatever, even Bob's Burgers. And all of this shtick, if you will, is derived from those clowns who were performing in clown theater. The lines, the slapstick, the quick wit. I mean, all of it, really. Most comedy is derived, from clowns. Clowns can do miming. Here's a picture of Robin Williams in Central Park in the early 70s. He was kind of taking part in miming and clowning, and that's where kind of he got his comedy chops. So the only way that a clown can do miming is if they do the miming face, and they call it dirty necking because they only paint right here. It doesn't go all the way down. Miming, again, itself is a whole different art form, but clowns do dabble in miming because it is fun and it is a good way to kind of non-verbally make people laugh. It's actually very impressive. Again, miming and clowning, like, God bless these performers. So this next small niche, if you will, of clowning is actually very special to me because I'm from the South, is rodeo clowning. Now, rodeo clowns actually in Southern culture, or even in the Midwest, in any rodeo culture, they are like the stars of the show. They are celebrities. They are high members of society. Oh God, the South is truly hee-haw, where the rodeo clown is like, oh my God, that is like the celebrity of town. He's a rodeo clown. My mom always told me growing up, because she was a rodeo girl, and she always told me, and ladies, you can take this advice with you if you will, to always date the rodeo clowns, because when you date the bull riders or the bronc riders, they're going to get hurt. And then you can't have fun after the rodeo because you got to go to the hospital. So date the rodeo clowns, because also they'll come pick you up in the bucking car. And my mom did get picked up in a bucking car for a date. There's two kinds. Sorry, I'm kind of rambling, but I am just a fangirl for a rodeo clown. So rodeo clowns are going to do the august makeup, the hobo tramp makeup, if you will. Paint here, maybe some eyebrows, maybe a wig. And so you're going to have the barrel rodeo clown. And so what they do is they have a padded barrel in the middle of the arena. That way they can hop in, hop out, hop in, hop out every time a bull comes, because their job is to not only entertain you, but is to also distract the bull so that the cowboy, the bull rider, can get out of the arena once he has fallen off. It's actually a very dangerous job, to where we get into the more experienced rodeo clown is going to be the bullfighter, if you will. Now, this is not the Spanish bullfighter. This is actually more hands-on. So bullfighting rodeo clown is going to have overalls that have been sewn into like a denim mini skirt, if you will. And that way, when a bull hooks them, they can kind of get out easier versus wearing like pants. And rodeo clowns are the only clowns that have to go to work in full gear, full pads, and cleats and mouth guards sometimes, depending on kind of what you're doing. You have animals, they'll have, just go-karts rigged to the max with all this stuff. It is so impressive. If you ever go to a rodeo, do just watch the rodeo clowns.
Going out here. Well, you know how nowadays these cowboys, they're flying from one show to the other?
Yes, they are.
Well, that's what I'm doing. Fly 'em in, fly 'em out. Curbside service, air taxi.
That is.
We got a problem. Oh! God. Whoa! We got a major problem.
That's a big
Woo!
Oh.
We done lost the wing.
Lost the wing. Oh! He's on the takeoff road. Look out! Oh!
Frankie, grab the shotgun.
Okay, kids, you have made it this far. We are now going to get into some more nuanced clown performers that I don't think people realize had a background in clowning. Sure, we have our Bozos, our Krusty the Clowns, Ronald McDonald's, even Homie D Clown. We have iconic clowns. But I want to talk about, again, more nuanced clowns. And so let's just take it real quick. If you thought I fangirled about rodeo clowns, get ready. I'm going to try to rein myself in. But let's discuss, again, Buggy the Clown. And now, Buggy the Clown, I would say, is probably the first notable sexy clown. And my reaction when I saw this shot was literally, I'm just thankful I was alone.
This better not awaken anything in me.
So Buggy the Clown, played by the actor Jeff Ward, who also played in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. of the Marvel Universe. And he also played Charles Manson in Manson's Girls. So I think he's just really good at playing like crazy charismatic guys that get really devoted fangirls. Do you think that Jeff Ward's acting abilities, the way he handled Buggy, also, we cannot deny the man's got eyes for days, big old puppy dog eyes. So you combine Jeff Ward's acting choices with his gorgeous, gorgeous eyes, And then this crazy clown character. And when the casting was announced, people could not fathom what this was going to look like. And they did not fathom that women were about it. With Buggy the Clown. So Buggy the Clown is a very important clown in pop culture because he is a manga clown, anime clown. He is from Japanese culture. So he is a Japanese representation of a more Western clown. So it's kind of a little double entendre there. And now a little background about Buggy. Buggy is a clown because the nose is real, y'all. The nose is real. And it's a big deal in the fan fiction. So the nose being real, he was deemed a freak. And therefore, instead of hiding away and hiding his nose, he was like, I'll be a freak. I'll be a freak all day. I will get every freak I know, and I will become one of the most badass pirates in this whole entire universe. Buggy the Clown was actually heavily inspired by the DC Universe's The Joker. And now that is very interesting because I won't really harbor on the Joker too much in this video because he's technically not a clown. I know that he is the clown prince of crime, but that is his own title that he gave to himself. Joker, even within his own universe, is not seen as a clown because there are clowns within the DC universe. There are criminal clowns within the DC universe that are like, we do not claim the Joker. The Joker is not with us. He is a appropriator of clown culture. He is not what we are about. And so I will not even harbor on the Joker. Another iconic clown that a lot of people might not be aware of, but you should be, is the iconic drag clown, Jimbo. Now, Jimbo is a Canadian designer and drag queen and clown performer. Jimbo has said in many interviews that clowning has helped her drag in the storytelling aspect. It's really helped her identify the art of what drag she wants to do. But in turn, drag has helped her define her clown style and aesthetic. And just really heightening the costumes and the makeup and the wigs and just the art of it. And I think that that's a really kind of beautiful yin and yang of drag and clown can work together. They don't have to be one or the other. They don't have to be so staunchly different, that you can kind of dabble in both, and both will help enrich what art form you're trying to portray. Jimbo iconically did a performance on national television. I don't know how much I can put on this video without getting copyright infringement, but please go look for it.
Mom, are you hungry?
She did was called a turn. And now a turn is a short performance by a clown. And turns are actually practiced, rehearsed, studied, group projected on. Like she said, she got with a lot of other clowns to work on this specific performance. And I think that it was heavily inspired by the pachinko style of clowning, which is a kind of a masked performer. There's storytelling, there's a curiosity to the performance. So I do think that character was inspired by that, but also by the French bouffon style of clowning, which is antagonizing the audience, and I do think that those two elements are in this turn specifically. I don't necessarily know where the baloney comes from, but I did find it funny that in another interview, she's quoted as saying that she has had to try to find baloney in every corner of the earth, and that she likes to find a subject, another drag queen that she's performing with, to do a baloney test where she has to make sure that it sticks and it has a good consistency. So she is a professional at the end of the day. I do think that, again, with miming and certain clown, like the turn that she did, and it is nonverbal, the audience is left to kind of come up with the story on their own. And it is a level of involvement that does take intelligence to create. You know, you can create your own story as a performer, but you also have to kind of like think about what the audience is going to take from that if you're not even there to tell them how to feel. So what looks like on the surface just utter chaos and just a weird, creepy performance with Maloney is actually a very smart and well thought out performance that you kind of think about over and over again, and it really sticks with you, and you can kind of take what you want from it. It's different every time. I do hope that maybe one day we can get like an America's Next Top Clown or RuPaul's Clown Race.
Bianca Del Rio could not be here, so we just hired a circus clown.
Another clown that a lot of people don't realize is a clown and brought a lot of their clown work to modern audiences is Steve-O. Now, Steve-O is of Jackass MTV fame, and Steve-O always wanted to be a stuntman. And he has a biography. I highly recommend people, read it or listen to his own YouTube channel. He talks about this a lot, but I will try to sum it up as best as I can. So let's all gather around for story time with Montana, and let's listen to the story of Steve-O the Clown. Okay. So once upon a time, there was this little young man named Steve-O, and he was a skater and a pothead and a drug dealer, and he desperately wanted to be a stuntman. It's all he dreamed of. So he is quoted as saying, "There was no precedent for what I was trying to do, and I was still not getting any traction. I was doing cooler and cooler stunts, but nobody gave a shit." And so at this moment in time, he is Albuquerque, New Mexico, and he is sleeping on his sister's couch. And she is, as he says, very repulsed by his hygiene and just his lack of having a job. And so she suggests that he audition for the Ringling Brothers Circus Clown College. And so he hitchhikes all the way from Albuquerque to Denver, Colorado in order to do these auditions. He is quoted as saying, "Nobody was taking me seriously, and I thought if I was a trained circus professional, it would legitimize me." Part of this, he did during his homelessness in Miami. He befriended the University of Miami dive team at one point, and they taught him how to do like backflips and handstands and walking up the stairs, a lot of acrobatic stuff. That plus being a longtime skater, he did have a natural acrobatic ability. So that plus the fact he really waxed on during the audition about how he had hitchhiked all the way from New Mexico up there. And he said at the time that he thinks that that is what legitimized his audition, is that they saw this tenacity and this extreme desire.
Right, jagoffs. The name's H.J. Rimmons. Look to your left. Look to your right. By the end of the semester, 60% of you will be dead by your own hand. The rest will be clowns. You dig?
Little did they know that that was not the case with Steve-O, because he was accepted into clown college, but being Steve-O, he did not take it very seriously. And after classes and training, he would just go back to his old Steve-O ways and be doing drugs and drinking alcohol and hurting himself and damaging property. It's quoted again as saying, "Overall, clown college was distinctly more like boot camp than college. 8 weeks and then 2 weeks on the road doing random things. So it's about 2.5 months, and truth be told, by the end of it, I had fallen in love with it. I was converted. So by the end of it, I really wanted to be in the circus, but by that time I'd fucking blown it." Of the Ringling Brothers Circus Clown College, they take in about 3,000 applicants, and out of that 3,000, only like 33 are accepted a year. And then out of that 33, less than 10 are actually given contracts with the Ringling Brothers Circus. So if you do ever see like a legitimate circus clown performer, do know that you are looking at like the Harvard Law valedictorian of clowns. You are looking at like the doctorate of clowns. So although Steve-O did not get into the Ringling Brothers Circus, he did find himself again kind of in a rough spot. But he still wanted to be a clown and perform. And so he was performing at a Fort Lauderdale flea market. And so as he would perform at the flea market, people would film him and he would take those videos and he would mail them in to anywhere he could. One of those videos he sent to Big Brother magazine, and that is where Jeff Tremaine, who is kind of the director and creator of Jackass, discovered him. He reached out to Steve-O, said, I have a new show. You would be perfect for it. It's called Jackass, and the rest is history.
Tropical pole vaulting.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Another one that I always knew this was clown coded. And during this research, I got the validation that I needed. And that is Darth Maul from Star Wars lore. Now, I'm a big Star Wars girly, and Darth Maul always felt clown coded to me. And luckily, I have George Lucas and its creator, Ian McCraig, saying that he is. Now, the story with that is George Lucas is making the prequels. He is trying to find a Sith apprentice that will rival that of Darth Vader in terms of just badassery. And so he goes to Ian McCraig and he's like, look, I need a Sith apprentice who is scarier than Darth Vader. And so Ian's just like, oh my God, scarier than Darth Vader. Ooh, quite the task. And George Lucas told him, make it the stuff of nightmares. Stuff of nightmares. And so Ian did the first time. And it was so scary that when he gave the file folder to George at a meeting, George opened it, closed it, gave it back and said, do your second worst nightmares. And that is where he, again, Ian McCraig thought of Bozo the Clown, because Bozo the Clown terrified him as a young child. The chokehold Bozo the Clown had on the boomer generation, I think honestly we could all dress like clowns or just show a huge appreciation for clowns to get back at boomers if we ever wanted to. Now, he thought of Bozo the Clown, and he didn't have a character model, so he used his own face. And then he did the grease paint for the clown to represent the muscles under the face in kind of an ink blot test way. Like he had like an ink blot test kind of idea for face paint, and then he also wanted like it to represent like the muscles within the face. And so he did it on his own face, and that is how we got Darth Maul. Darth Maul is technically clown coded. I knew it. So this last fandom that I'm going to dive into, please just stick with me. I will make it short and brief, but just hear me out. Hear me out. It is Warhammer 40K's Harlequin Army. In just a brief simpleton description of Warhammer 40K, it's essentially just a giant battlefield of armies fighting constantly. There is more to it, please, Warhammer people, don't come for me, but just for the person who doesn't understand, it is just a big battle. Like, it's just armies fighting all the time. And so the Harlequin army is one of my favorite armies because their whole battle technique is a performance. And I think this really sums up the clown thing really well. It is quoted as saying, every step of the battle is like a dance. Each victim is as much an unwilling partner as a mortal foe. All the while, the enemy wrestles with the worst fears reflected back at them in the Harlequin's ever-shifting masks. So even their battle outfits is to reflect that de-individuation that clowns have. Their masks are reflecting back a smile during war. And that brings out the opponent's, again, fight or flight response of, I can't read this person's expression. All of the Harlequins wear masks. And so that is actually what they use, the fear that people have for clowns, and they use it as a battle technique. And I love that. The Harlequin kind of performance, and what I really love about it is, life is a dance. You learn as you go. Sometimes how does the song go? There is no normal. There is what is correct for Japanese society is completely different to American society, is completely different to Mexican society. Who is making these rules? What is normal? It's just groups of people. Groups of people like me and you are making up these rules, and some of them hinder others, and there's no real reason why. And so that's why I really loved this research and diving into clowns, is because they are truly, again, these outliers of society. Their art form is the source of all comedy. Their art form is the source of a lot of fears and scare tactics. It is also the source of a lot of sympathy, again, that, women feel for Buggy. But it is the source for a lot of emotions. And again, none of us know what we're doing. And so you have these clowns that just bring that to light, and they're just sitting there making fun of us, going, look, none of us know what we're doing. I'm going to sit here and bring that to light. I'm going to make fun of everybody. I'm going to make fun of all political parties. I'm going to make fun of all class systems, all statuses. No one is above or below me. Like, I am just this morally gray goblin making everybody laugh. It was truly fascinating getting into this, and I learned so much. And I highly recommend people doing their own deep dives of this, and maybe going and seeing a clown show and just understanding the eons and eons of history and work that has gone into this art form. We look at paintings by Van Gogh and we read books by Hemingway, and all of these are respected art forms. Even singing, you have Adele and all these amazing singers, and it is seen as so classy and so amazing. But for some reason, clowns are not. And I find that needs to change. That needs to change. And I think Buggy the Clown is the one to change it. Concludes this video. Thank you so very much for watching these. It means a lot. I love making these. It's just a new little hobby of mine to kind of utilize some of the things that I have in my profession. And I love sharing my, deep dives on the internet with anybody else who cares to learn about this stuff. And so please like and subscribe if you want to support me. If not, that's totally cool. Just your views mean a lot. I love checking in to see who's even viewed this. And again, thank you for coming on this clown journey with me. I hope you have a great rest of your day.